see the right external features of the heart. We have an auricle that also we have discussed. There are two auricles in the two atria, which generally increases the surface area because the right atrium में आपकी पूरी body से blood आएगा, so definitely we require the surface area has to be increased. That is because of the auricle. Even in the left atrium also the same thing. What is sulcus terminalis? Sulcus terminalis, now you observe between the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, there is a depression you will observe. Onto the right atrium itself, there is a depression that is called as sulcus terminalis. Now look at this. Suppose if this is the right atrium, this is the superior vena cava and this is the inferior vena cava. दोनों के बीच में there is a depression you are observing. This depression is called as sulcus, which is outside. इस sulcus की वजह से ही अंदर की साइड में एक उभार बनेगा, एक एलिवेशन बनेगा. दिस इज कॉल्ड एज क्रिस्टा टर्मिनालिस. सो रिमेंबर, sulcus terminalis is an outside, whereas crista terminalis is inside the right atrium, between the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. That is very important. Now look at this. This is how when we cut the right atrium and how it look like. Now look at this. Right atrium when you cut, see this anterior wall we have cut. और कहाँ से कट किया? हमने कट किया है between right atrium में, between the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. See, this is the superior vena cava. This is the inferior vena cava. So superior vena cava और inferior vena cava के बीच में there is a groove which we were discussing, that is the sulcus terminalis. So if you make an incision from the sulcus terminalis and then anterior wall, if you reflect, so now you can see this is the anterior wall which is totally rough, and this is the posterior wall which is totally smooth. क्यों है anterior wall rough and the posterior wall smooth? Because anterior wall, it is made up of muscle fiber. You are observing these muscular fibers. These muscle fibers are called as musculi pectinity. These muscle fibers are called as musculi pectinity, whereas posterior wall is smooth. Why it is smooth? Because the whole blood, जब जहां पे भी सबसे पहले ब्लड आएगा वो एरिया स्मूथ होगा. ये आपका फिजिक्स का नॉर्मल फिनोमिनन है. आप अगर ऑब्जर्व करेंगे, कहीं पे एक तालाब है, अगर वो कहीं ऊपर से गिर रहा है, किसी पत्थर पे या किसी स्टोन पे गिर रहा है, तो दैट स्टोन हैज टू बी स्लिपरी. तो इसलिए जहां पे भी ब्लड सबसे पहले हिट करेगा वो एरिया स्मूथ होगा. ये एक फिजिक्स का फिनोमिनन है. तो सेम फिनोमिनन हैज बीन अप्लाइड टू द हार्ट. कि सुपीरियर वेना केवा और इंफीरियर वेना केवा से जब ब्लड आएगा, वो ब्लड पूरा का पूरा पोस्टीरियर वॉल पे सबसे पहले हिट होता है, इसलिए पोस्टीरियर वॉल को स्मूथ होना पड़ा. और एंटीरियर वॉल पे नहीं है पहले, तो वो रफ है. और एंटीरियर वॉल रफ है क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पे मसल देख रहे हैं आप, मस्कुलर फाइबर, क्योंकि हार्ट ऑफ कोर्स इट इज अ मस्कुलर ऑर्गन. So these muscles are called as musculi pectinity. कहाँ से कहाँ तक extend कर रही है musculi pectinity? See, now you look at this. This is an elevation you are observing. What is this elevation? This elevation is the crista terminalis. Just now we have discussed. See, अगर outside में sulcus terminalis है, इसके अंदर की साइड में इसका जो elevation बनेगा, this elevation is called as crista terminalis. So this is the crista terminalis. So it means musculi pectinity starting from the crista terminalis, and they extended up to this cusp or this valve. This is the tricuspid valve, which is between the right atrium and the right ventricle. So right atrium और right ventricle के बीच में जो valve है, this valve is called as tricuspid valve. See, तीन cusp दिख रहे हैं मुझे, एक, दो and तीन. There are three cusp. One is anterior cusp, posterior cusp and the septal cusp. So ये दिख रहे हैं, ये anterior, posterior and septal cusp जब आप देख रहे हैं, तीन cusp है, तो इसलिए मैंने बोला tricuspid valve. So it means musculi pectinity start from the crista terminalis and extend from the tricuspid valve. This is how the musculi pectinity. So anterior part is the rough, which is also called anterior part is the rough, which is called as atrium proper, and the posterior part is smooth, which is called as sinus venerum, which is actually developmentally formed by the sinus venosus. तो हम लोग development के time discuss करते हैं. And this is the atrium proper. So now look at this. This is the crista terminalis. Anterior wall पे crista terminalis से ये start हुई आपकी musculi pectinity, which start from the crista terminalis and goes up to the tricuspid valve. Now, when I talk about the posterior wall is smooth. There are number of impressions and number of structures you are observing onto the posterior wall. What are those structures? See, I can see the opening of the superior vena cava. This is the opening of the superior vena cava, which open into the right atrium. This is not guarded with any valve. But when I look at the inferior vena cava opening, see lower side, there is a opening you are observing, that is opening of inferior vena cava. This opening of the inferior vena cava, it is guarded with a valve which actually control the blood circulation, which is actually control the blood circulation during the fetal life, not in the adult life. So that valve is called as eustachian valve. So याद रखिए कि inferior vena cava की जो opening है उस पे जो valve मिलेगा, that is the eustachian valve. Now the third, if you observe superior vena cava and inferior vena cava opening, in दोनों opening के बीच में there is a thumb like depression you are observing. तो thumb like depression जो है, thumb like depression, this actually is called as fossa ovalis, and this shows us कि during the fetal life there was a connection between the right atrium and the left atrium. Now look at this. This is the right atrium. Right atrium के पीछे this is the left atrium. So between the right atrium and the left atrium we have an interatrial septum. So definitely during the fetal life there was a communication between the right atrium and the left atrium. But जैसे ही बच्चा डिलीवर हुआ, एक सांस उसने लिया, immediately this foramen has to be closed. That foramen is called as foramen of oval. That foramen has to be closed. So अगर foramen जब close हुआ तो उसकी वजह से यहाँ पे जो thumb like depression बना, this is fossa ovalis. और इस fossa ovalis की sharp margin जो आप देख रहे हैं, this sharp margin is called as limbus fossa ovalis. Remember, keep it in mind. So सबसे पहले हमने क्या देखा, posterior wall पे opening of the superior vena cava, which is not guarded with any valve. Then we have seen inferior vena cava opening, which is guarded with a eustachian valve, and between superior vena cava and inferior vena cava opening, we have seen the thumb-like depression. This is actually the place where the foramen of oval was present. So that foramen of oval is being closed after the birth. So that is called as fossa ovalis. और इसकी जो sharp margin है, that sharp margin is called as limbus fossa ovalis. These are the three structures. Now fourth structure. Now look at this. This is another opening you are observing between the inferior vena cava and the tricuspid valve. This opening is called as coronary sinus opening. If you remember, I have told you coronary sinus is the dilated vein जो आपको posterior part of interatrial जो groove है वहां मिलेगा आपको. वहां जो coronary sinus है वो coronary sinus जो periphery से blood ले रहा है, heart की periphery से, heart का जो blood है, that directly comes into the coronary sinus and it opens into the right atrium. So this is an opening which is called as coronary sinus between the inferior vena cava opening and the tricuspid valve. And this opening is guarded with the valve. That valve is called as Hebasian valve. So याद रखिए, eustachian valve is the valve of the inferior vena cava, whereas Hebasian valve is the valve of coronary sinus. This is, now look at this. This is the cadaveric picture. You identify. This is the opening of the superior vena cava. This is the opening of the inferior vena cava, and between them you are observing this thumb-like depression, which is shows us the position of the foramen of oval. So this is fossa ovalis, and the sharp margin of the fossa ovalis you are observing. This is called as limbus fossa ovalis. Now you are observing this is the eustachian valve, valve of the inferior vena cava. This is the opening of the coronary sinus. An opening of the coronary sinus पे भी आपको एक valve दिख रहा है. This valve is called as Hebasian valve, and this is the tricuspid valve you are observing between the right atrium and the right ventricle. And this is the anterior wall, atrium proper, which is the muscular. These are the musculi pectinati, longitudinal muscle fibers you are observing. And now look at this. There are small veins you are observing. See, these are the small veins are opening onto the posterior wall. These small veins which are opening onto the posterior wall, what are these? These are openings of cardiac anterior cardinal veins. These are called as foramina venerum minerum. We call them foramina venerum minerum. मतलब venous veins के foramen है opening के जो बहुत छोटे हैं, इसलिए इनको नाम दे गया foramina venerum minerum. So these are the जहाँ पे क्या open होती हैं, anterior cardinal vein. So this is again the anterior wall, atrium proper, the rough. This is a posterior wall you are observing. So this is how you have to remember. So what is fossa ovalis? Fossa ovalis is a thumb-like depression onto the posterior wall, which shows us the position of foramen of oval. Interatrial septum पे जो बताता है कि fetal life में there was a communication between the right atrium and the left atrium, but after the birth it has been closed, and that is called as fossa ovalis. And the sharp margin of the fossa ovalis is called as limbus fossa ovalis. Now next is what I am saying is triangle of Koch. What is triangle of Koch? Now look at this. There is a triangle has to be formed. What is that triangle of Koch? Triangle of Koch is this area. यहाँ observe करिए, anteriorly we have septal valve. Now see what are the boundaries of the triangle of Koch. Anteriorly we have a septal valve of the tricuspid valve. If you observe the inferiorly or the lower side, we have opening of coronary sinus, and posteriorly, now you observe this area. The posteriorly, ये जो area है, this is an area for a tendon, muscular band. This is called as tendon of Todaro. This is endocardial cushion. Endocardial cushion means एंडोकार्डियम, जो अंदर की हार्ट की जो अंदर वाली लेयर है एंडोकार्डियम, उसका जो कुशनिंग है पार्ट वो है. दिस इज एंडोकार्डियल कुशन व्हिच इज आल्सो नोन एज टेंडन ऑफ टोडारो. So this triangle has to be formed. This triangle is called as triangle of Koch. So this is an area where we have AV node. If you remember, conducting system of the heart is consisting the SA node. SA node के बाद AV node. AV node के बाद आपका bundle of hairs, and then we have a Purkinje fiber. So here in the triangle of Koch we have AV node. Now next question is to be asked, where is the SA node? SA node always you will see just near to the opening of superior vena cava. Medial to the opening of superior vena cava you have SA node, and triangle of Koch you have AV node. ये बहुत important question है, पता होना चाहिए. Now look at this. This is triangle of Koch. Anteriorly we have a septal valve. Posteriorly we have a tendon of Todaro, that is the endocardial cushion, and laterally we have opening of coronary sinus. So this is the triangle of Koch, and the triangle of Koch का importance क्या है? Here we will get the AV node. Now कई बार क्वेश्चन पूछा जाता है कि फोसा ओवेलिस कैसे बना. आपको पता होना चाहिए फोसा ओवेलिस जो डिप्रेशन है, ये जो फोसा ओवेलिस और इसकी जो शार्प मार्जिन है, दैट इज द लिम्बस फोसा ओवेलिस. Now look at this. The development बन रहा था, development हो रहा था इंटरएट्रियल सेप्टम का. This is the interarterial septum between the right atrium and the left atrium. There is a septum has to be formed. जो सेप्टम बना था, सेप्टम में देखिए जो है एक सेप्टम है, ये सेप्टम दिख रहा है आपको. दिस इज द सेप्टम प्राइमम यू आर ऑब्जर्विंग, एंड दिस इज द सेप्टम इंटरमीडियम, और ऊपर से आ रहा है एक सेप्टम सेकेंडम. जब ये दोनों आपस में हैं तो दोनों के बीच में एक फोरामेन आपको दिख रहा है. दिस फोरामेन इज कॉल्ड एज फोरामेन ऑफ ओवेल. मतलब आप ये देखिए कि ऊपर से आपका आया सेप्टम सेकेंडम, नीचे से आपका आया सेप्टम प्राइमम, दोनों फोरामेन के बीच में ओपनिंग. ये जो ओपनिंग है, दिस इज फोरामेन ऑफ ओवेल, जिसकी वजह से ब्लड का मिक्सिंग है. नाउ लुक एट दिस, व्हाट हैपेंड. जैसे ही डिलीवरी होती, बच्चा बाहर आया, उसने फर्स्ट सांस लिया, फर्स्ट ब्रीथ पैटर्न के दौरान, व्हाट हैपेंड, this septum secundum and the septum primum has to be fused with each other. तो septum primum and septum secundum fuse हुआ, तो fuse होने की वजह से यहाँ पे ये foramen of oval is to be closed. So remember, जब foramen close हुआ तो क्या बना, fossa ovalis. तो बहुत important है, पता होना चाहिए. तो now look at this. नीचे वाला septum primum है, ऊपर वाला septum secundum है. तो septum primum ने बनाया fossa ovalis, और इसके ऊपर जो बना, that is the sharp margin that is formed by septum secundum. So always remember, septum secundum forms the limbus fossa ovalis, whereas fossa ovalis forms the septum primum. अगर इन दोनों के बीच में स्पेस रह गया, स्पेस क्लोज नहीं हुआ, तो what happens, there will be a mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, and that is called as probe potency of foramen of oval. Is the what happened in that probe potency of the foramen of oval? It means the foramen of oval is not to be closed. अगर ये क्लोज नहीं हुआ है, ओपनिंग है, तो डेफिनेटली बच्चे में there will be a mixing of the blood. Blue baby syndrome, if you remember. So that is very important. So remember one word, fossa ovalis is formed by septum primum, जो नीचे से आ रहा है, और limbus fossa ovalis, that is the free margin, that is formed by septum secundum, जो roof पर से आ रहा है. This is the part that you have to remember. This is the diagrammatic representation which you can draw in the exam. बहुत important है, पता होना चाहिए. See this. This is how you can draw. This is the fossa ovalis. This is limbus fossa ovalis. This is the eustachian valve we are observing, inferior vena cava opening, and now look at this. This also says us that eustachian valve की जो left margin है, that is continuous with the limbus fossa ovalis, and this is the coronary sinus opening which is guarded with the Sebacean valve. This is tricuspid valve. These are the minute openings you are observing. These minute openings are called as foramina venerum minerum, where we have openings of anterior cardinal vein. This is an opening of the superior vena cava, और यहीं पे पास में आपको मिलेगा SA node, and this is the anterior wall which is rough, that is formed by musculi pactinity. What is propotency of foramen of oval? If the foramen of oval is not been closed, if it is open, then there will be a mixing of the blood. That is very important. This is about the right atrium that you have to write in the exam. अगर डिटेल में